أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماؤه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وأحلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your amal, forgive your sins, accept your grief from last night's majlis, inshallah. And as we continue now trekking through this foundational theology discussion, we only have a few nights left and a lot to discuss. There's been an ongoing announcement about this Kahoot challenge that's going on tonight. I encourage all my families who are listening. If sometimes we need some extra help to retain what's been discussed. A lot has been discussed over the past 9 classes, heavy material, stuff that needs to be digested and marinated inside of us. And so I think part of it is, things like the Kahoot challenge. And it's a very good idea by the team. By the team. Not only is it fun and there's some prizes, but you also end up retaining what we discussed as well. So I encourage you all, please. If I could, I would be part of it as well, and as the host or as a judge or whatever you need. But unfortunately, this month of Ramadan, I am everywhere, so I'm not able to join you guys. But it can be very exciting, and I have gone through the questions. I've seen them. It's a good game. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. But if you've been able to kind of sit there and listen, inshallah, everything will be okay. But have a little bit of family fun at the same time, learn something as well, inshallah. Let's begin our class. A lot to talk about. Let's begin with the share, inshallah, and then we will go from there. We have reached, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, with the blessing of Allah and the help of Imam-a-Zamana, we have reached class number 9. Now, we have reached the divine worldview now through intellect and rational thoughts. We have talked about before the majlis from last night. On Thursday night, we talked about why do I need this principle? Why do I need to discuss this? And after that, we talked about ilm huzuri, ilm husuli. We talked about the 2 dimensions of the fitrah. Remember, the innate theology and the innate worship. And then that leads us to tonight, where now we'll look at the proofs of God. And we'll do our best to I'll do my best to look at the strength of every argument and those challenges also of every argument, to be fair. And while there are many, I will examine 2 main proofs of God. And again, these are intellectual discussions, and I'm not going to be using a lot of ahadith or a lot of the scripture or the Quran. Trying to, of course, like I said, massage the intellect and get that going. So first proof is called proof of design, Burhan al-Nazm, what is referred to as the teleological proof of God. Now, I'm going to just kind of list what the premise of the proof is and then go through each proof in its own slide. Okay? So basically this proof, and I apologize at a time, I know that sometimes my PowerPoint slides are boring, and I do that on purpose, not on purpose, but I don't really spend, with all the bells and whistles and all of the funky animations and everything. It's a, I'm a straightforward, old school, boring kind of guy, and sometimes my PowerPoint resembles that, and sometimes my PowerPoints are wordy, and today's will be a little bit wordy. And hopefully you're on a device where it's a rather large screen. If not, I'll help you navigate through the slides. So the premise of this proof is basically, after deliberation on the creation and every part of this universe, it's a sign pointing to God. And basically the slogan of this proof is that where there is design, there is a designer. Okay? In everyday life now, where you see some remnants of organization, where you see an inclination of somebody now has gone in and organized something, be it the pantry, be it the basement, be it the room, be it the bathroom, be it the kitchen, you know that somebody did this. So you walk in, let's say, to a clean room, and the first question is, well, my kids ask me, who's coming over? And I feel like saying, we only clean when people come over. Like, I don't understand. It's like when a meal is made and they ask, who made this? And my wife says, the Perosi did, the neighbor did. The neighbor made it and brought it over, right? Well, actually she did, Bachari. She cooked, all day in her fast for her. And they're like, oh, who made this? It's like, who's coming over? No one's coming over. So, what we say now is when they say, oh, who's coming over? And we say, oh, Imam-a-Zamana is coming, inshallah. That's why we're cleaning the house. But when you clean the house, you're bound to ask, oh, I wonder who cleaned the kitchen, who cleaned the room, who vacuumed the floor, right? Where you see design, where you see order, where you see intelligent design, the question that is logical is that there has to be a designer. Intelligence is required for its conception or its idealization. Power is required for its execution. In other words, our hearts affirm that there must be wisdom and purpose to the cosmos around us. Okay? That's first proof. Okay? Now, a lot of you might ask, well, what about the Big Bang? What about this? We'll get to that, inshallah, the next slide over. The second proof that we're going to look at is called proof of existence, ontological, burhan wujud. The premise of this proof of God is it goes through existence. An existent is either necessary or contingent. Contingent is a word that means that it requires something else to bring it into existence. Okay? All things cannot be contingent, meaning that everything else is an effect. An effect only comes about when there is a cause, right? So if you have a world of effects, the question has to be, where is the cause? It can't be that the entire world is effects or the world is contingent. As a contingent, existent requires a cause. And if all causes were contingent, then nothing would come into existence. The example sometimes given in the books is, imagine a race. People are lined up for a 100-meter dash race. Nine runners are all there, and they've all said to each other that we will not start until the other one starts. Okay? So imagine a race in which no participant will start until another one has started. I won't start till you start. Then they say, I won't start till you start. I won't start. Eventually, there's no race because there has to be a first person to start. Well, the reliance on that person or the criteria by him starting is the fact that someone else has to start. Okay? It's just not possible, right? Doesn't make sense. Okay? Thus, all causes must end in an existent that is not caused by anything else and itself is a necessary existence. Again, each of these proofs will have its own slide and we'll go through them one by one, line by line. Okay? Let's start off with the proof of design. Burhan and Nazm. It's the simpler of the proofs. It's the one that I think that a lot of our youth and our kids understand. But there is some challenges to it. Okay? Let's go through the premise line by line and let's expand on the points from the previous slide, inshallah. Okay? This proof is dependent and contingent on some form of deliberation. Okay? So simply living our life day to day, eat, sleep, work, repeat, eat, sleep, work, repeat, is not something that will bring about this proof. So, my first point in this discussion on proof of God is that these are for people who are seeking proof of God. Okay. Again, there are people who simply just they don't care, doesn't really affect them, and that's okay. And there are people who are content with a mundane life that is void of purpose, not really interested, don't really want to know about God. I eat, I sleep, I'm with my family, I'm good. Okay. Those people who need to be proven properly that a God exists and are waiting for that proof to come for everything else in their life now to kind of follow suit. For those people, it does require a little bit of work, a little bit of preliminary muqaddama work, right? And that is deliberation. Stop and think for a moment. Look around how this universe now, there is interdependence, there's coexistence, there seems to be some intelligent wisdom, there seems to be some continuity as well. The sun rising every day, the sun setting every day, time, day and night going through every day, there seems to be some sort of a movement now. When we deliberate on that, when we contemplate on that, go through some introspection, then at that moment, you can't help but to observe some level of order. Okay. The example I gave in my Muharram lecture this past Ashra, in the first 10 days of Muharram, I talked about a grain of rice. And I talked about the idea that for one rice now to reach your plate, one grain of rice to reach your plate and ultimately reach inside of your stomach, a number of elements, people, existences have to now work together to bring that rice on your plate. Right? From the farmer now who plants this, to the sun and the water and the earth and the soil that helps it grow, to the market that sells it, to your parents that buy it, to the car that transports it, to the water that boils it, to the pot that holds it, to the spoon that now brings it into your mouth. How many things now, all now working together now as one now unified unit to bring you rice on your plates. That's order. There's codependence there. There's an interdependence of various elements in this world working together rather seamlessly. So where there is a design, there is a designer, but that design now has to have some level of intelligence behind it. It's not random. I'll give an example. Okay. Your mother asks you or your father asks you, please clean your room. Please clean your room. Please clean your room is a zoo. It's a disaster. It's chaos. I can't see the floor. Okay. Pick up your clothes, blah, 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 this and that. Okay. You, of course, ignore her or ignore him, because sometimes we do that. You come back from, I don't know, a trip to the mall, or you went out for ice cream, you come back and your room is spotless. It's clean. And then you feel horrible, because you know that when mom does it or dad does it, then that's not good. But not only is it clean, because the first question you'll ask is, who cleaned my room? It's obvious that this wasn't by chance. It's obvious that someone had come and placed things in order. You'll ask who did it, and someone will tell, I did it. On top of that, you'll notice that not only is there order, but there's intelligent order, meaning what? The socks are in the sock drawer, the clothes are hung, the pillows and the blankets are on the bed made, your desk now is cleaned, the carpet now is vacuumed, the dusting on the dresser is done. It's not like he put the socks in the bed and the pillow in the sock drawer, or she hung up the books or your papers on a hanger, and she put your pants on your desk. It's not like, for example, she vacuumed the dresser and dusted off the carpet. No, right? Everything had its own intelligent place everywhere it went. Okay. Not only that, the room continues now to be cleaned every week or so. Every week she asks you, and every week you say no, she comes in and she does it for you. Every Sunday you know that your room has to be cleaned. Sometimes you do it, sometimes she does it. But the order of the room is maintained through every single cleaning. The socks have it placed, so whether or not you place it in that sock drawer or someone else does, it has its own place. And that place is maintained every single week now, continuously. That room is cleaned and intelligently now put into order. Okay, this universe is no different. There are things that are placed now perfectly. You can do the research, and I encourage you to do that research. That, you know, the distance from the earth to the sun is so precise that if there was an inch either way, we'd either burn to death or freeze to death. That level of design, the movement of the earth around the sun, time as it elapses, the function of the sun with the clouds, and the clouds with rain, and the rain with grass, and it's just an incredible system, intricately designed, without any sort of discrepancy, or without any sort of confusion or contradiction inside the universe. The Quran challenges us: look again and again and again. Your eyes will get tired, but you won't find contradiction in this universe. Now, in order for that order to happen, right, we say in Urdu, right, where there is nazm, there is a nazim. Where you see some munazzam place, something that is in order, you have to have some nazim, someone who does it, right? Like, for example, sometimes in our jashans, people do nizamat, right? The MC. The one who does nizamat is the nazim, right? He has to be there to make sure the program is going according to plan, according to order. That requires some intelligence, okay? So not only do we say that this is done by chance, it's done by an intelligent entity that now has intelligence and wisdom as part of its qualities. Okay? Your mother had a brain, your father had a brain to know where to put everything. They know enough to know that clothes go on the hanger and pillows go on the bed. That wisdom and that intelligence is given to them. They have that inside of them. Okay? So the next point is that existence of structure, function, and interconnectedness leads to an acceptance of a deliberate and a conscious purpose behind these realities. Understand this point. This order is deliberate. There's a purpose behind it. There's a movement behind it. There was some wisdom and intelligence behind it. Okay, this is not just bang, everything came into play. If we accept the Big Bang to say, okay, there was an explosion, and the way the universe now is laid out, that was a result of a random explosion, fine, let's accept that. But how do you explain the fact that there is continuity in the order and the design of the universe today? Who is turning that? Science, nature, does it by itself? Once it's set, it kind of, within its own existence, there is movement. All these things have to be. And again, if you tell me that the sun now, within its own creation, its own existence, knows when to rise and to set, my question is, let's go back even further. What gave it that intelligence? Khud ba khud, by itself, with creation? No. The sun is a contingent existence, depending on a cause to bring it into existence. Okay? So you see function, you see structure, you see deliberance, you see a conscious purpose in everything in these realities, in the cosmos, which tells me that not only is there an entity that initially placed it in order and designed it, but the continuous, perfect, munazzam, in order, balanced, harmonious movement of the cosmos tells me that this entity is still with us and is still involved in this argument and in this proof. Okay? Now, let's look at the strength of the argument. Let's look at the challenges of this argument. Okay? Because not everyone accepts this argument. The atheists now will come across and they will, of course, challenge the argument. The first strength, however, is that this argument comes up with probabilities. So it is a continuously developing proof, which means what? As now that they are identifying, and they are constantly now, NASA and science and astronomers now and astrologists now are continuously discovering planets and stars and meters, and they're venturing out in space to find out, oh my God, there's now this many galaxies, and they're all, of course, interconnected, intertwined perfectly and immaculately placed together. Then that means this proof is continuously proving itself. As now you discover more design and more order and more more deliverance in this universe, the more this proof continues now to prove itself. It's not a one and done proof. It continues now to prove itself. As new discoveries come along, the proof now strengthens. Number two, it's an ongoing argument. It's been around for centuries. It hasn't been shut down. It hasn't been addressed. It hasn't been brought to its knees. The persistence of the argument, of any argument, is the strength of the argument. Now, one can say, oh, you know what, that's just kind of, it's what's the word now? It's the stubbornness of the believers. It's the adamant nature of the believer. They're not accepting logic, this and that. This is one of those proofs. Now, I can tell you that the atheist now, when it comes to disproving God, has reduced their whole portfolio to one proof, and that is the existence of evil in this world. Okay? That is the only thing left to the atheist. All these proofs now, one by one, have brought them down to their knees. But you can do your own research. That's fine. You might think, oh, well, of course you're going to say that, Asabhai, because you're biased. That's fine. But the persistence of this argument that continues to come about as discoveries now are discovered is the strength of the arguments. Okay? Challenges to the argument. Number one, complexity does not necessarily mean design. Yes, there's a complex system here. Absolutely. It's very complex. The way the planets lined up, the way the sun is now, being used, for example, the capturing of the light from the sun by the moon to illuminate the night sky, the stars, for examples, the rotating of the earth, its own axes, and then around the sun, time as it elapses, all these things now. Very complex, absolutely. Does it mean design? Okay. But we counter that challenge by saying that complexity, it continues now to grow. That complexity continues to grow, which means that we're not talking about just design here. We're talking about intelligence. We're talking about function. We're talking about the fact that nothing has been created without purpose. Even now, as they venture on these different planets, the Mars mission and going to the moon and this and that, they're finding life forms there, which of course serves a purpose. Okay? So this conscious purpose now gives life to the fact that there is a conscious being bringing these things into their purpose. Okay? So don't simplify the argument by saying, oh, it's complex, fine, but it's not design. No, complexity sometimes is that design. It's complex, but it doesn't lack perfection. It doesn't lack order, right? There can be ordered chaos, but the order part is where this proof now is focusing on. Okay. Now I'm going to end a little bit early tonight. I think by about 6:40, 6:41 or so. So if just letting the Mutahar Bhai know in case that he's ready for questions. And the last point of this slide and of today's class on this proof of design is that deliberate design doesn't necessarily mean it is God. So the question I have is, let's put the onus of proof back on those who deny it to be God. I believe it to be God. If you don't believe it to be God, what do you believe it to be? Science, nature? If science is there, then of course let's look into science as a form, and it's defined by a science of experimental formulas, where you experiment and you use it is an empirical science. I mean, you use empirical knowledge, the biologies and the chemists and the physics, all of them really rely heavily on empirical knowledge. And we talked about the limitedness of the empirical knowledge of sensationalism in this process of proving God, right? It's limited. It's limited. Okay? So science cannot be, the designer in all this. So again, the question I have for those who deny to be God is, what is it? I remember having this talk with a Shia youth in my trip to India. I went to India last year, pre-pandemic, and we all went, my family, my kids, everybody went. And, we went to someone's house for dinner. There was somebody there, an elderly woman, said, can you please help my son understand God? He has 1,000 questions and hamara paas jawab nahi. I don't have an answer for him, but you do. I said, okay. So we sat in a room for an hour and 15 minutes talking about God. And when we got to this point, when he says, why should it be God? I said, who is it then? Tell me who it is. I don't know, but it's not God. So, there was this level of enmity towards God. He just didn't want to say it was God. Because to him, God was this boogeyman, this man who just wants to punish me, never accept my repentance, I'm never good enough for God. So those biases have to be removed. Sometimes you have to destroy the building to rebuild it, right? You can't just keep fixing an old building. Destroy it that's what we're trying to do, right? So all of your, if you have false attributed truths right now inside of you, God hates me, God doesn't like me, God is evil, those have to be removed for this conversation, this talk to actually be fruitful and beneficial. So my sister, my brothers, my first proof for all of you is Burhan al-Nazm, proof of design, theological proof. You guys can Google that and go through the various, it does go deep, but obviously, for the sake of the awam and everything, I kept it, understandable, hopefully digestible. But this is the premise, the strength, and the challenges that I present to all of you, inshallah. I'll stop right there. If there's any questions, bismillah, please. Thank you. The time right now is 6:40. So I did end 5 minutes early. Sorry about that, bhai. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
All right, so we do have some questions here. Let's see. So this question, Maulana, says, other religions also promise an eternity of bliss and contentment. So how to discern which is the right one?
Yeah, so I mean, again, we're going through the proofs right now, right? So you look at who is it that's promising you the eternity of bliss? What is that source? Who is it? And does that source make sense to you? If you're able to prove that source to you logically, and follow that source practically to get to eternity, then bismillah. I mean, that's your belief. But let's hold off on that question until the proofs are there. Right now, we've gone through one proof. We'll go through one more proof tomorrow, inshallah, and then we'll talk about attributes. And then we identify, do these other religions now, are they able to present God the way that we are in this divine worldview?
Thank you, Maulana. So this question, I think you've answered before, was from it's a youth question. That if there is a God, then why so much evil? And so that's
it's the $1 million question. And maybe if I can one day before I leave you guys, I'll answer that question. Look, very, very quickly, in order for us to be on the right path, we have to choose that right path, right? To choose that right path, we need free will. If God created us to be robots and just control the robots from where he is in the heavens, then there's no point in that. The entire point is to create the human being, give that human being free will, and then watch that human being make choices in this world. Okay? Then they will achieve a status based on those choices. To simplify things in a matter of 10 seconds, that's what it is. Free will is a necessary element for the perfection of human being. Free will is a necessary element for the perfection of the human being. Okay? Part of that free will is that you have to be given the other choice to be made in order for you to make a right choice. What makes a right choice is the existence of an evil choice. What makes justice is the existence of evil. Evil has to be there. Mm-hmm. Allah created elements of evil inside of us. We have an animalistic dimension to us. We have anger, we have jealousy, we have envy, we have hypocrisy, we have hatred. All those things are inside of us. And they have to be inside of us for us to choose the right way to manage those things. So yes, secondary offshoot of creation is evil. It has to be there, but the primary purpose is for us to reach heaven and eternity. So evil has to be there. Now, unfortunately, some people choose to delve into their evil side as opposed to their justice side. That's not God. That's man's choice. Again, a lengthy discussion with our Rabbi. I don't think I have time for that. Right? It's a long question, but nonetheless, the idea is that evil is necessary for the right choice to be made. That right choice is there for our perfection and our eternity.
Makes sense. Thank you. So this question is, in many traditional Muslim groups, God is presented as one who punishes if we make mistakes. How can we change that?
How can we what? Sorry, what's the end?
How can we change that?
Yeah, so I think that we have to understand that that's not the way God introduced himself to us, right? Like, the frustrating part is that, if I'm telling you that, if I'm telling you this is how I am, okay, and you say no, you're this way, right? For example, if if someone says to you, Mutahar, look, I have a business and I need to do my corporate taxes, and it's very complex with all of the pandemic and now firing, and now I have unemployment insurance and blah blah blah. Can you please come and do my taxes? And you'll say, look, brother, thank you very much, but I'm not an accountant. I'm in the medical field. No, you're an accountant. Come by my house and do my taxes. No, I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure you are an accountant, right? You'll start to get a little bit frustrated and say, look, I don't know who you think you called. You didn't call the right person. When God constantly introduces himself as a merciful, loving, compassionate God, when he flat out says, Kataba ala nafsihi rahma, I've made mercy wajib upon myself. Wajib upon myself. He's not like me, where I'm lax with my wajibat. If Allah says this is an obligation on me, my perfection dictates to me, I have to fulfill that obligation. If Allah is saying begin everything with my rahmaniyat and my rahimiyat, if Allah is flat out saying I will forgive everything except for shirk, then we're saying, no, God, you're the punisher, you're the wrathful one, you're the evil one, you're the angry one. You can tell me how you are all you want, but I know how you are, and you're this way. So it doesn't take much to change it. Now, our parents have a huge role to play. The ulama have a huge role to play. The teachers in Sunday school have a huge role to play for our young ones who initially are introduced to God. Please be careful how you introduce a child to God. Please be careful how you introduce God on the pulpit, on the minbar, to the awam. And there are people of different levels, capacities, ages in front of you in this huge majma in Muharram. Do not present this idea that God will hang you from, this and beat you with that and lash you with that. After a while now, you expect that 15-year-old now to submit to that God, serve that God, ask that God for anything. He's going to run from that God. So what we can do is if we have our dependents to be younger than us, be it our children, be it our students, be it the community member, please, let's adopt the Christian custom. And the Christian church introduces a God of love. A God of love. When you believe a God of love, you want to worship that God. You want to serve that God. You believe, even if I fall and I am covered in dirt, he will come and pick me up. I don't know where we get it from. I don't know where it comes from. Honestly, I don't know where it comes from. When he himself is saying, this is not how I am, who are we to say, no, you are this way, right? And a lot of it comes from a childhood, right? Comes from a bachpana, a trauma-filled childhood. If you don't do this, God will do. And I get the fact that a God of fear is presented. Yes, there is an element of God's justice. But let's not start off with that. Let's start by having the child love. He doesn't want to now break God's commands. You don't have to sit there and tell him, no, if he loves God, he's going to want to, right? That's the language of love, right? Like, Mutar, I love you with all my heart. I legit do. I would never want to say anything to upset you. If I said anything to upset you, right away I'll call you and say, Bhai, I'm sorry, yaar, I'm maafi chahta, I didn't mean to. Because my love will dictate that to me. That's just the law of love. The law of love says if you present God to be loved as a loving God, I want to worship him. I don't want to upset him. I don't want to break his laws. Those kind of things, inshallah.
Great.
Sorry, it makes me very, very upset.
No, this is true,
I'm
but
very riled up.
no, unfortunately, that's true. That's how people, most of us, been
I
and
don't get it.
have been taught. So this is question from Brother Hassan. He usually asks great questions.
I love his questions. Yeah.
Yes, and actually, he's going back to the last question we had about the evil. So he's asking, did I understand you correct by saying God created evil inside of us?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that is not possible because God can only create good, and evil is the absence of good. Grateful,
So,
if you can please
yeah,
clarify.
go ahead. Yeah.
Please clarify.
So there are elements of evil inside of us. Yes, that's my statement. There are elements of evil, and they have to be there, but they are a secondary effect of a primary cause. Meaning what? I'll give you an example I gave in my Madras in Muharram. When I'm teaching my son Hassan, who's 5 years old. My son's name is Hassan, and he's 5 years old. Okay.
Oh, you're great.
Hassan, 5 years old. Okay. If I'm teaching him how to ride a bike, and he says, Baba, I'm going to fall. And I can't promise him that he's not going to fall. But the primary purpose of me teaching him how to ride a bike is not to fall. It is to ride a bike. The secondary effect is, yes, it's possible that you could fall. But that's part and parcel of the primary purpose of riding a bike. The primary purpose for Allah is, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I made you a vicegerent of mine. Represent me through your actions. Elevate yourself towards me. Choose the right path. Inna hadaynahu sabil. I showed you the path. Now, the primary purpose is there. What comes along in the package is elements of evil inside of us. They have to be there for us to deny, ignore, move away. You're right. The definition of evil is the absence of goodness. But you cannot deny the fact that the human being has the potential to be an animal. We're seeing it right now in front of us. You cannot deny that when you and I become angry, we lose ourselves. When we sin now, we're out of our element of our consciousness, right? Those are not external factors. Those are all inside of us. Allah says that, yes, those are there. But the kamal of the insan is to govern those, not to remove them. They're there. Ghazab is there. Shahwa is there. Allah placed anger inside of us. Allah placed desire inside of us. But then He gave us the aql now to what? To govern those powers inside of us. And those who choose to elevate the aql and allow the ghazab and the shahwa to be governed are a human being. Otherwise, as Imam Ali says, if you allow your desire and anger to be the best of you, you are worse than animals. You're underneath animals. So yes, it might be a tough pill to swallow, but those elements of evil have to be there for us to make a right choice. Remember, what makes us worthy of Jannah is the fact that we are faced with two forks in a road, and we chose this path. This path is only right when this path is wrong. This path is haqq when this path is batil. Batil has to be there for this to be haqq and right. It has to be there. Inside of us as well, there has to be elements of evil. So while we can say Allah created us to have the element and potential of evil, He did not create us to be evil. That's not the primary purpose. I'm not teaching my son how to ride a bike to fall. But yeah, he might scrape his knee, right? He might get hurt a little bit. That's all part of it. Secondary cause to a primary purpose, inshallah.
Great. Thank you, Maulana. I think we have one more question here.
Sure.
I think it's a good question here. The question is that we are convinced that there is a creator by looking at the design of the universe and the example that you gave. However, how can we convince first ourselves and then others that it is Allah, not something else? Well, I lost your volume here. You mute. Can't hear you.
How did that happen?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay, sorry. I don't like the fact that they are, I think we're stuck on some words. So creator, God are used as two separate entities. I use them interchangeably. You can call the creator whatever you want. Khuda, God, Lord, Bhagwan, it doesn't matter to me. As long as you identify the attributes and the proof of that creator. And then the real question is, and I don't mean to dodge the question, but I'm saying that, we are using Allah and creator as if they're two separate. If you've identified that the creator is the beginning of this universe, that's God. You can call him Joe and Frank and whatever you want to call him, but that's God. Now, inside the deen of Islam, we refer to him as Allah.
I think, if I want to interrupt, I think the question is that, like, why not cow, sun, or anything else? But just
yeah. I mean, because like, again, I don't mean to do that, but if you can hold on to that question after tomorrow's discussion. Tomorrow we talk about existence. So tomorrow we'll talk about Burhan Wujud, and in that discussion we'll understand that when you identify something to be to be created, like the sun, the moon, and statues, then you know that this can't be the creator. But that will happen tomorrow night. So again, if you can hold off, and if that person who asked that question is listening, if I don't answer your question with my dars tomorrow, please text and ask that question right away. I want that question answered. But hopefully, inshallah, if I do my job, I'm able to answer that question through my dars tomorrow, inshallah.
Inshallah. So Maulana, we have a few more minutes. I have one more question I just got.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, can you explain in terms of different nafs, like nafs amara, lawama, and mutmainna, the concept of evil and good within?
Again, if I can paint a picture for you, the evil is there. It is there from creation. Okay, and then how we interact with that evil results in a certain level of nafs. One more time, okay? So it's not like we're born with a nafs amara and I'm just carrying out. No, of course, that's jabr, right? That's predestination. We reject that. We create the level of nafs that we have inside of us. Okay, how do we create that? If I could kind of create an equation, there's evil plus our interaction with that evil equals nafs fulan blank. So nafs amara are those people that have a very close interaction with the evil elements inside of them, meaning that they allow those elements to govern them. If you're angry, say what you want. If you desire something, just take it. Love her, eat this, drink this, say this, watch this, hear this. It doesn't matter. You're not governed by Sharia, not governed by God. You're governed by your own desires, right? Allah says, have you seen the people who ilahuhu hawa, who take their hawa as their ilah, right? Their desires for their Lord and those that they worship. So that's nafs amara. Then nafs lawama are those people who have a back and forth interaction with their with those evils. They listen to the evil, then they regret, right? Lawm from lawama means to regret. Right? Commit the sin, then say, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Commit the sin, then say, oh my God, what's wrong with me? That back and forth, the guilt, the remorse is lawama. And then of course, mutma'inna is somebody who has governed, has put a wall now between themselves and those evil elements. So the nafs, the various level of the nufus that we have inside of us are just a result of our interaction with those evil elements. How we're able now, with our willpower, our resolve, govern ourselves against the anger and the desire inside of us. Because remember, not all anger is evil. Not all desire is evil, right? There are elements of anger that is required. Islam is probably the only religion that promotes that. We don't accept the fact that all anger is evil. Like you bulldoze my home, you disrespect me, you oppress me, you oppress my family, and I just quietly just pray for your maghfirat. No, Allah says have some courage, defend, speak out against those who are the zalimeen. That courage comes from anger. Right? We don't believe that all desire is blasphemous. That you become celibate, don't marry, this and that. No. Once you're able to identify your spouse and a few ankahtus, and now you're mahram, and now all of a sudden that desire that was blasphemous before is actually mustahab and recommended now. It's a matter of your state of your being, right? So all that of course is dependent on the various levels of the nufus. I hope that answers the question, inshallah.
Yes, perfect. So yes, time I think is almost up, and we are out of questions.
Excellent.
Thank you. Inshallah,
thank you very much.
Tomorrow.
Please join the Kahoot challenge. Join the Kahoot challenge. You won't regret it. It's a great experience. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you.